What it do, YouTube? I'm David Sexton, and this is Sexton EDT. Today, I'm going to be doing a quick review of what has become my favorite Apple device of all time, and offer up some tips and tricks, apps, and accessories on what helps me make this little guy such a big part of my daily routine. The iPad Mini 6 has become such a large part of my day-to-day life. So much so, in fact, that I'm completely discontinuing my iPad Pro for the first time since the iPad Pro lineup was introduced. The iPad Mini 6 might not be for everyone, but I'll show you how I use it, and who knows, maybe you'll decide the iPad Mini 6 is for you as well. First things first, the thing that sets this guy apart from its bigger iPad brothers is its smaller form factor, which just makes it more pocketable, easier to ensure that you'll have it with you as much of the time as possible. Since using the Mini for a little while now, the few times that I've tried to go back to the iPad Pro, it's just felt heavy and clunky, just not as user-friendly when trying to go from laptop replacement to tablet mode. Just seems kind of, like I said, clunky. Using it with this keyboard case that helped me replace the computer but wasn't the greatest experience when going from tablet. It just added that extra friction of trying to go between the two. So I suppose what the Mini 6 has done for me is just given me just a tablet. The Pro seems to be stuck in that gray area between not knowing if it's a laptop replacement or if it's trying to be a tablet. And after having the Mini in my hands for 4 months, I've realized that the iPad Pro is excellent at a laptop replacement or fitting the bill for a one-device mobile solution. But the Mini isn't trying to do that. It's just a tablet. And always with you, get the small stuff done tablet, and it absolutely excels at it. If you're looking for the one device to rule them all, then the iPad Pro is definitely the way you should go. You won't be disappointed. It's the best in the iPad lineup for that use case. But if you're the type of person that's going to need a laptop for your bigger mobile computing tasks because a tablet or a phone just won't cut it, like I am now that I'm back in school, then the iPad Mini 6 is going to be my #1 iPad suggestion for your iPad needs. More mobile and more up-to-date than the iPad Air, and larger and in certain tasks more capable than the iPhone Pro Max, thanks to Apple Pencil 2 support. It just hits that sweet spot perfectly, in my opinion, and helps me do the things I do most often during my day that don't require me to be on a computer, which includes web browsing, journaling, daily, weekly planning, taking notes both for school and for work, reading, and even for quick word processing drafts for papers and YouTube scripts by pairing it with a keyboard. And another little use case that recently has presented itself is it's turned into a perfect little gym companion now that I'm back in the gym trying to get back in shape this year. I can use it to log my reps and my weight to get that tracked, but it's also a great size for doing the Apple Fitness Plus routines as well. It legitimately checks every box that I want out of just a tablet, and it does them all exceptionally well while being so portable that I almost never don't have it with me. Now, that's not to say it doesn't have some drawbacks. The couple that I've noticed most coming down from the bigger iPad Pro is the battery life, which is to be expected coming from a device this large to one this small. And that's not to say it behaves poorly in the battery category. It's just noticeably a big jump, whereas I could go multiple days without even thinking about battery life here. I find myself having to check every night to make sure it gets through a day even as much as I use it, but I do have to keep an eye on it a little bit more. Another drawback that I've noticed is the screen brightness, which is to be expected again. With the battery issues, I can see why they didn't make the screen any brighter, but it would be nice to have a little bit brighter of a screen to be able to read in direct sunlight. With the Amazon Kindle app, this has pretty much taken the place of my Amazon Kindle, except for when I'm outside trying to read, if I'm by the beach, sitting out on the deck, whatever. I wish the screen could be a little brighter, but neither the battery nor the screen brightness are deal breakers for me. They're just kind of more wants than needs. It's honestly just the only two scenarios that I feel like the iPad Mini does okay as opposed to great. As far as some of the other negative things that I've seen or heard, they either don't bother me or I've found ways around them. #1 being the infamous and ridiculous jelly scroll. I'm not even going to explain what that is, because if you don't know, you're not going to notice it. And if you do know, you've likely already made your decision on whether or not that bothers you. Myself, I'm in the not camp. So much so that I don't even notice it, so we're not even going gonna go any further into jelly scroll. It's a non-issue. Another complaint that I've heard is the pencil placement. For whatever reason, people were shocked that because the pencil was gonna go on the side, that they wound up moving the volume rockers to the top. I don't know why that's an issue. That seems to be a no-brainer for me. It would have been a far worse user experience had they tried to cram them on the same side as the pencil, or tried to figure out a way to put them on the left side, because that would have gotten in the way of the folio case, and sure as hell wouldn't make any sense to be on the bottom. So the logical spot was to put them on the top. And when I found out that they were going to be on the top, I immediately thought, well, duh. And then the second thought was, well, it'd be cool if they could make it to where the volume rockers change depending on where you were holding it. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. I've heard people complaining about that, but again, that just seems intuitive and makes the most sense for me. If you're holding it like this, looking at it, volume up is to the right, volume down is to the left. If you hold it pencil up, then volume up is up, volume down is down. If you hold it the complete other way with pencil down, again, up is up, down is down. If you're holding it upside down for whatever reason, volume to the right is up, volume to the left is down, just like it would be if you were holding it normal. The only real caveat to having both sets of buttons up top with the lock screen and the volume rocker is if you were going to try to do a screenshot. It gets a little awkward trying to press both buttons at the same time, but a little trick on that is the swipe up from the left with the pencil gets you a screenshot. So I've not noticed any issue whatsoever except for relearning. Swipe up from the left to get the screenshot. The other complaint that I've seen about the pencil placement is that when people want to hold it with their right hand, sometimes they said the pencil can get in the way, and I have seen that issue, but honestly, with the pencil magnet, it actually works flipping it around to the back. I wouldn't try to carry it that way long term, but just to get it out of the way to get a better purchase of the device while holding it with your right hand is not bad at all. And then one thing I have found as well, if you're holding the case and you flip it around to the back like I just shown and then close the case around it, you actually get like a nice meatier purchase on the device while trying to read, and creates a little non-slip handle. I've liked it so much that I found myself flipping it over to my left hand so that I can hold it that way on my left hand as well. Pretty comfortable. I actually like it better than the other way, so that's a plus, not a complaint. The other complaint that I've seen about this guy was the use of Touch ID instead of Face ID, but I mean, that's kind of a personal preference. I don't really see one being better than the other. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. I mean, one advantage for the Touch ID is the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic. If we have to wear a mask, Touch ID still works. You don't have to worry about Face ID not working. Then again, if it's cold like it is now, I'm wearing gloves, obviously Touch ID won't work there, but Face ID probably is better as far as quickness. It tends to be a little bit more intuitive, but at the same time, you have to make sure the angles are right, and sometimes it doesn't want to work. So to be honest with you, Touch ID hasn't been a problem. I've actually kind of liked it. One tip that I will give on Touch ID though is the fingers that I use to unlock it. Obviously, if I'm holding it regularly, I'll have my right index finger programmed, so that's the first finger that I program. I also, if I'm going to hold it in landscape, pencil up, left index finger would be the best one to do there. And then sometimes I do read upside down. Say if I'm charging and it's awkward to hold the other way, I will hold it upside down sometimes. Plus I'm left-handed, so a lot of times I do like the pencil on the left side there for me. So left thumb is the best finger to have there. So right index, and left thumb are the best fingers to program. But I will also suggest, regardless if you're right or left-handed, whatever hand you write with, do the middle finger on that hand so that you don't have to change the way that you're holding the pencil. You can go right into it and not make much adjustment. So anyway, those are just tips on the fingers I use. Right index, left thumb, and then the middle finger on whichever hand you write with. That way you always have an available finger to touch it. Hands down, this is my favorite iPad that I've ever owned. And I've owned every iteration because I love iPads. But it's taken away my favorite category from the iPad Pro, and it's inserted itself into my daily routine. So it's obvious that I love the Mini. Now let's talk about the things I use with it. We talked about the pencil. That should be a must. I also use the Apple Folio. There are other cheaper alternatives, which I'll have some linked below in the description, that I've used and liked, but compared to apples. The fit and finish is a lot nicer. You know, Apple tends to like apples to apples, I guess. And speaking of apples, I also carry around the Apple Magic Mouse. It's definitely not my favorite mouse, but it came with my iMac and I had it laying around, but I don't use it because I have a trackpad with my iMac. So it's thin, light, packs away real easy, and because it's apples to apples, the gestures work. It pairs up nicely. Another thing that I use is a folding keyboard. There's a bunch on the market. This is the one I like. It's from Moco. Again, I'll have links in the description with these and also a bunch of other suggestions from different price points, different manufacturers. I like them all. I've used them all. You make your decision if you want them. I do get a little bit of kickback if you do buy off of that link. That would help out, but you don't have to. Do whatever you want to. You just might not get a Christmas card from me if you buy elsewhere. But I like the folding keyboard. It's light, it works, it pairs, it goes nicely with the mouse. Your folio folds up. You've got a nice little setup here, but one thing I've noticed is I actually like when I'm typing on this, have the iPad upright. So Moco also makes a cheap little stand that I can use. This guy in portrait mode gives me a little bit more of screen real estate this way, up and down the page rather than wide. I tend to like this a little better. One other stand that I also use is this Apex guy. It's a little clunkier, a little bulkier, a little harder to carry back and forth. So I leave it at work, but it does set it up higher a little bit for ergonomics sake. As you can see, it's just kind of clunkier to get the way you want it. It's got pressure point here and here. You just kind of put it where you want it and bada bang, bada boom. Setting up a little bit higher, you can get a few more angles. That stays at work. That works wonderfully. But nonetheless, it's a nice little on-the-go typing situation. Some of the apps that I use with this guy, again, I mentioned that it's replaced in most part my Amazon Kindle, so I have the Amazon Kindle app on here. Apple Books works, but the Kindle ecosystem is just way larger and it's just the better choice in my opinion. I also use Libby and Overdrive, which are apps for public libraries where you can check out books. It's a really cheap way to get that done. Again, I like to read, so I'm reading on this thing a lot. That's probably half of the use of this guy is reading, but then I'll also take notes. So I use Apple Notes, especially for typing. I like to just jot down real quick notes. If I'm doing something a little bit more detailed, where I want a little bit more control, then I use GoodNotes 5. It's a paid app, but it's been worth it for me. I do my daily and my weekly planning through that. I'll also do my journaling through that. So I do use that app. Another app that I have that I use quite a bit, again, is Apple Fitness Plus. And then I also use Parallels Access, which I might have a video coming soon on Parallels and how I use it. But basically, when I have a computer here at home that's online and I'm elsewhere at work or wherever, I can actually pull up that computer on this little guy. Now granted, it does work better on the bigger screen of the iPad Pro, but I've noticed no differences as far as lag or the ability. The only difference that I found is the difference in screen size. So if you can put up with the smaller screen size, you can pull up full Mac OS on this guy, and then this system becomes even more manageable for a quick on-the-go computing solution should you need just something quick. I wouldn't want to do any long-term stuff on there, but quick, get in, get out. You don't have your laptop with you. This guy works really well. And then another thing that I use is the REI Travel Organizer, which I'll have another video coming on this guy, which is just a straight review. It's been the best bag that I've found for the iPad mini. Absolutely awesome. It can be used kind of as more of a clutch hand thing. I've got a little carabiner. I can clip it to my belt or whatever. It also has straps that tuck away that become a fanny pack if you're into that look, but holds everything I need. So I'll have a straight up review on this guy coming, and I'll also have a bag dump of everything that I carry in it besides what you see here. But that becomes a nice little kit that I always have on me so that I'm never too far away from the iPad mini. But with that, we'll end the quick review. Again, links to all of these things down below, plus some other things we didn't talk about and some alternatives to some of the things we did talk about. But thanks for watching. Smash that thumbs up if you got some value. Jump into the comments if you got any type of questions or constructive criticism that might make me better as a person or a YouTuber. And until next time, live free or don't.